I was sitting in my lawyer's office on a gray October afternoon in Portland, staring out the window at the rain-soaked streets below. 3 weeks ago, my wife Diane had stood in our kitchen with this smirk on her face and told me she was pregnant. But here is the thing that made my blood run cold. It was not mine. She said it so casually, like she was telling me she picked up groceries. Then came the real punch. She wanted alimony. She actually expected me to pay her after what she had done. But what Diane did not know, what she could not possibly have known, was that I had already discovered her secret 3 weeks before that moment. And I had been planning my response ever since. Before I tell you exactly how I dismantled everything she built on lies, drop a comment below and let me know where you are watching from. I would love to hear from you. Hit that like button if you have ever felt the sting of betrayal from someone you trusted completely. And make sure to subscribe, because this story has more turns than the Columbia River Gorge, and you will not want to miss a single moment. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. 6 months before that smirk disappeared from her face forever. Diane and I had been married for 7 years when everything started to unravel. We met in Denver back when I was working as a software engineer for a tech startup. She was a marketing manager at a firm downtown, sharp as a tack, beautiful and ambitious in all the ways I admired. We dated for 2 years before I proposed on a hiking trip in Rocky Mountain National Park. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Exactly what we both wanted. 3 years ago, I accepted a position at a major technology company in Portland, and Diane came with me without hesitation. She landed a job at a prestigious advertising agency, pulling in $65,000 a year, while I was making around $120,000. We bought a house in the Pearl District, one of those renovated lofts with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. It was our dream home. We had routines that felt sacred. Every morning we would drink coffee together before heading to work, her hands wrapped around a ceramic mug I bought her from a local artist. Friday nights she would make lasagna, my favorite, and we would dance in the kitchen to old jazz records. I genuinely believed I had found my person, the one who would be there through everything life threw at us. But around March, about 6 months before everything exploded, small things started changing. Diane began coming home later. At first it was project deadlines or client meetings that ran long. Reasonable explanations. I trusted her completely, so I did not question it. Then I noticed her phone was always face down on the counter. When I walked into a room, she would quickly close her laptop. Our intimacy dried up. She would say she was exhausted or stressed about work. I told myself every marriage goes through phases like this. Marketing is demanding. I needed to be understanding. But there was this voice in the back of my head, getting louder each week, whispering that something was not right. I started doing more around the house, cooking dinner, cleaning up, trying to ease whatever burden she was carrying. I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to be the husband she needed. Looking back now, I see how naive that was. It was a Friday night in late April, when the foundation really started to crack. I left work early because a client meeting got canceled, and I came home to find Diane on our balcony talking on the phone. But it was not her work voice. It was soft, flirtatious, the way she used to talk to me years ago when we first started dating. She was laughing, this light, genuine laugh I had not heard in months. The moment she saw me through the glass door, she jumped and ended the call immediately. "Just a coworker discussing the campaign," she said. The explanation came too fast, too smooth. That night I lay awake beside her, listening to her breathe, wondering if I was being paranoid or if I was being a fool. The following week, my younger sister Rachel called me. She is 3 years younger than me, a graphic designer here in Portland, and we have always been close. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Just the two of us." Her tone was serious in a way that made my stomach drop. We met at this small coffee shop in the Hawthorne district, tucked away from the usual crowds. Rachel looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup. "Frederick, I saw something," she finally said. "Last week I saw Diane at an Italian restaurant downtown. She was not at a client meeting. She was with a man. Their hands were intertwined on the table. They were leaning into each other like more than colleagues." Rachel showed me a photo on her phone. It was taken from across the restaurant, grainy and distant, but I could see Diane clearly. Her body language, the way she tilted her head toward this man, the smile on her face. It was intimate. Unmistakably intimate. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Rachel grabbed my hand across the table. I did not know if I should tell you, but you are my brother. You deserve to know the truth. I told her not to say anything to anyone. Not yet. I needed to be certain. If Diane was cheating, I needed proof. If I was wrong, I needed to know that too. The next day, I contacted a private investigator. A friend from work had used one during his own divorce and recommended a guy named Tony, a former cop, who now ran a discreet investigation service. I met Tony at his small office near the industrial district. I gave him everything. Diane's schedule, her photo details about where she worked. This is going to cost you about $2,000 a week, Tony said. I will be thorough. I nodded and wrote the check from my personal savings account. For the next week, I had to go home every night and pretend nothing was wrong. I sat across from Diane at dinner making small talk about our days. Every kiss felt like a lie. Every time she smiled at me, I wondered if she was thinking about him. It was torture, but I kept my composure. I needed the truth before I made any moves. 7 days later, Tony called. I have got something. You are not going to like it. I met him at his office that afternoon. He laid out a series of photographs on his desk. Diane with a man outside an apartment building in northwest Portland. Diane and this man kissing before she went inside. Diane leaving hours later, her hair messed up, her blouse wrinkled. The man's name is Marcus, Tony said. He works at the same agency as your wife. This apartment is his. Based on what I have observed, they have been meeting at least 3 times a week for the past month. Probably longer before I started watching. I stared at those photos until my eyes burned. How long, I asked quietly. Tony shrugged. Based on patterns and some digging into her calendar, I would estimate at least 3 months. Maybe closer to 5. I paid. Tony asked him to keep monitoring and walked out into the fading daylight. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes just staring at nothing. Then I drove home. Diane was in the living room when I walked in, curled up on the couch with her laptop. Hey honey, how was work? She asked without looking up. Just another day, I replied. My voice sounded normal, calm, but inside I was falling apart. I knew I could not confront Diane yet. I needed a strategy. The next morning I called James, a friend from my college days who had become one of Portland's top divorce attorneys. We met at his office downtown, a sleek space with a view of the Willamette River. I brought everything. The photos from Tony. But they did not belong on my walls anymore. As I sealed the box, I felt a sense of closure washing over me. Not satisfaction exactly, not happiness, just relief. Diane had built her entire world on lies and betrayal. It was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. I did not destroy her. She destroyed herself. I just made sure there were consequences. 3 months passed. By late summer, the divorce was finalized. The house was mine. Do not confront her yet. We need to secure your financial position first. Over the next 2 weeks following James's advice, I quietly moved half the money from our joint savings into a separate account under my name alone. It was legal and necessary to protect what I had earned. I documented everything. James began preparing divorce papers, but we held off filing. We were waiting for the right moment, and James had a feeling that moment would come soon. I stared at those photos until my eyes burned. How long, I asked quietly. Tony shrugged. Based on patterns and some digging into her calendar, I would estimate at least 3 months. Maybe closer to 5. I paid. Tony asked him to keep monitoring and walked out into the fading daylight. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes just staring at nothing. Then I drove home. Diane was in the living room when I walked in, curled up on the couch with her laptop. My heart started pounding, but not with joy, with dread. I forced a smile. That is wonderful, I said carefully. But Diane was not smiling. She was watching me with this strange expression. There is something else you need to know, she continued. And then her whole demeanor shifted. The vulnerable act dropped away. replaced by something cold and confident. A smirk appeared at the corner of her mouth. "The baby is not yours." The words hung in the air between us. I stood there holding my coffee mug, feeling it shake slightly in my hand. Not from shock. From the effort of controlling my rage. Diane looked directly into my eyes, that smirk still firmly in place. No guilt. No remorse. Just cold, calculated confidence. "I see," I said quietly. "How long?" "Does it matter?" she shot back. "Point is, I am done with this marriage. I have been seeing Marcus for 5 months. He is everything you are not. Ambitious. Exciting. Alive." Then she laid out her demands. "I am filing for divorce. And I want alimony. You make $120,000. I make $65,000. Oregon law says I am entitled to support. Plus I want half the house and half your retirement fund." The smirk grew wider. "You will help with child support too, will not you? After all, we are still married when this baby is born. Legally, that makes you responsible." She kept talking, and every word was like a knife. "You are a good guy, Frederick. Safe, boring, predictable. Marcus makes me feel alive. You made me feel comfortable. Do not make this harder than it has to be. Just sign the papers, pay up, and move on. You will find someone else eventually. Someone who does not mind your mundane little life." I set down my coffee cup very carefully. I looked at this woman I had loved for 9 years, total married to for 7, and I felt absolutely nothing. No love, no hate. Just a cold, clear understanding that she had no idea what was coming. "I need some air," I said. I walked out of the house, got in my car, and drove straight to James's office. He answered on the first ring. "She just told me," I said. "Exactly what you predicted." "Did she mention alimony?" James asked. "Oh yeah," I replied. "She thinks she has won." "Perfect," James said. "Come to my office right now." An hour later, I was sitting in James's conference room laying out the entire conversation. James was smiling, but it was not a pleasant smile. "She walked right into it," he said. "Here is what we know. Diane has been spending marital funds on her affair. Hotel rooms, gifts for Marcus dinners. I have got the credit card statements to prove it. She just admitted, 'The child is not yours,' which eliminates any child support obligation and actually works against her. She committed adultery, which in Oregon affects property division, even though it is a no-fault divorce state. And here is the best part." He slid a folder across the table to me. "Marcus is married." I stared at James. "What your private investigator found out last week. I was waiting for the right time to tell you. Marcus has a wife named Lauren. They have 2 kids. She has no idea about any of this." I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me felt terrible for Lauren. Part of me felt a grim sense of justice. "Diane destroyed our marriage," I said slowly. "Let us see how she handles it when her perfect Marcus gets exposed." James laid out the plan. "We file first thing tomorrow morning. We request that Diane vacate the house since you owned it before the marriage and only added her name later. We countersue for emotional distress. We present all evidence of adultery and misuse of marital funds." And James paused. "We make sure Lauren knows what her husband has been doing." The next morning, Monday, James filed the divorce papers with the court. The petition included every piece of evidence we had gathered. Adultery, financial misconduct, a request for a fault-based divorce, property division heavily favoring me, no alimony for Diane, a counterclaim for emotional damages. At noon, a process server walked into Diane's advertising agency and handed her the papers in front of her colleagues. I was not there, but Tony had someone watching. He told me later that Diane's face went white as she read through the documents. That smirk from Sunday morning was gone. 20 minutes later, my phone started ringing. Diane. I let it go to voicemail. She called 6 more times. Then the texts started flooding in. "What the hell is this? You filed first. You are supposed to be the nice guy." I blocked her number and forwarded everything to James. Meanwhile, James sent an email to Lauren Marcus's wife. It was professional but direct. Attached evidence of Marcus's affair with Diane. Photos, Timeline. Information about the pregnancy. A recommendation that Lauren seek legal counsel immediately. I moved into a temporary apartment that week, a small place near my office. I did not want to be in that house anymore, even though it was legally mine. Too many memories, too many lies embedded in those walls. My phone buzzed constantly with blocked numbers, Diane trying to reach me through different phones. I ignored all of it. The game had changed, and this time I was the one holding all the cards. 2 days after Lauren received James's email, all hell broke loose in Marcus's life. Lauren confronted him that evening. Tony's contact, who was still monitoring the situation, reported that it was explosive. Lauren kicked Marcus out of their house that same night. By the next morning, she had filed for divorce and hired one of the best family law attorneys in Portland, someone known for maximizing child support and alimony. Marcus, desperate and angry, showed up at Diane's agency the following afternoon. They had a screaming match in the parking lot that half the office witnessed. "This is your fault," Marcus yelled. "You ruined my life." "My fault," Diane screamed back. "You said you loved me. You said we would be together." "I never said I would leave my wife," Marcus shot back. "You assumed that. And that baby, that is your problem, not mine. I want nothing to do with it." According to the people who saw it, Diane just stood there as Marcus got in his car and drove away. The realization hit her all at once. Marcus had used her. There was no future with him. He was going back to beg his wife for forgiveness, even though it was hopeless. Diane was completely alone. No husband, no lover, no plan. The fallout at the agency was swift and brutal. Within days, everyone knew about the affair. Diane had been sleeping with a married co-worker, gotten pregnant, and destroyed 2 marriages in the process. The gossip was relentless. Some of her colleagues, people who had respected her as a driven professional, now looked at her with disgust. Others just avoided her entirely. The agency's Human Resources Department launched an investigation. Office relationships were technically allowed, but Marcus and Diane had worked on projects together, creating a conflict of interest. More importantly, the drama was affecting workplace morale and the agency's reputation. HR gave Diane an ultimatum: resign voluntarily with a severance package or be terminated and lose everything. Diane had no choice. She resigned. Just like that, her $65,000 a year job was gone. Her health insurance, which she desperately needed while pregnant, vanished. Her professional reputation in Portland's tight-knit marketing community was destroyed. She tried reaching out to Marcus for help. "I lost my job because of this," she told him over the phone. "I cannot help you," Marcus replied coldly. "I am drowning here. I am paying Lauren thousands every month in temporary support. I have got nothing for you." "But the baby," Diane started. "Get a paternity test when it is born," Marcus interrupted. "Then we will talk." He hung up. He was secretly hoping the baby was not his, though deep down he knew better. Diane's financial situation deteriorated rapidly. No income. Her personal savings, which she had blown through on gifts and trips with Marcus, were nearly gone. Pregnancy expenses were mounting. She had to hire an attorney for the divorce, but could only afford someone inexperienced and cheap. Meanwhile, I had frozen our joint accounts as legally permitted, leaving her with only what was in her personal checking account. It was not much. 3 weeks after I filed, we had our preliminary hearing. I sat next to James at the plaintiff's table, calm and prepared. Diane sat across the aisle with her bargain attorney, a young guy, fresh out of law school, who looked overwhelmed. The judge, a stern woman, in her 50s, reviewed the case file carefully before calling the hearing to order. James presented our evidence methodically. First, the proof of adultery. Photos, videos, private investigator, reports a detailed timeline spanning 5 months. Second, the financial records, showing Diane had spent thousands of marital dollars on her affair, hotel charges, expensive dinners, gifts purchased on our joint credit card. Third, and most damning, the recording I had made that Sunday morning. Oregon is a one-party consent state, which meant I could legally record our conversation without Diane's knowledge. Her voice played in the courtroom admitting the baby was not mine, demanding alimony, mocking our marriage. The judge's expression grew colder as she listened. When the recording ended, she looked at Diane. Miss Diane, she said, you admitted under your own words that this child is not your husband's biological offspring. Yet your initial filing requested spousal support partially justified by pregnancy-related expenses. Diane's attorney tried to argue. Your Honor, she still requires financial support during this difficult time. The judge cut him off. That is a matter for the biological father to address, not Mr. Frederick. This court does not compel a man to support a child he did not father, particularly when the pregnancy resulted from the petitioner's admitted infidelity. The preliminary rulings came down hard. I would retain full ownership of the house, since I had purchased it prior to marriage, and only added Diane's name as a gesture of trust she had violated. Our joint accounts would be split, but I could file for reimbursement for any funds Diane had misappropriated during the affair. No alimony. The judge noted that Diane was perfectly capable of working, and that her adultery was an aggravating factor. Diane had 15 days to vacate the house and remove her personal belongings. I watched Diane's face as the judge spoke. All the color drained from it. Her hands shook as she tried to take notes. When she looked at me across the courtroom, there was no smirk anymore, just desperation and fear. I looked back at her with no expression at all. I felt nothing. After the hearing, Diane tried everything to reach me. My phone number was blocked, so she tried email. I had filters set up to send anything from her straight to James. She showed up at my office building, but security would not let her pass the lobby. She sent a handwritten letter to my temporary apartment. I am sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Please, can we just talk? I forwarded it to James unopened and never responded. Marcus makes me feel alive. You made me feel comfortable. Do not make this harder than it has to be. Just sign the papers, pay up and move on. You will find someone else eventually. Someone who does not mind your mundane little life. I set down my coffee cup very carefully. I looked at this woman I had loved for 9 years, total married to for 7, and I felt absolutely nothing. No love, no hate. Just a cold, clear understanding that she had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks after the hearing, Diane moved out of our Pearl District house and into a tiny one-bedroom apartment in East Portland, one of the cheaper neighborhoods. The place was old, cramped, nothing like the life she had grown accustomed to. The contrast must have been devastating. From a beautiful loft with river views to a run-down unit with stained carpet. Meanwhile, Marcus had cut off all contact with her. He blocked her on everything. He refused to take a paternity test until after the baby was born, trying to delay the inevitable. He was focused entirely on trying to salvage his own situation with Lauren, but that was a lost cause. Lauren wanted nothing to do with him. I spent a quiet Sunday evening in the house, the one that was now entirely mine. I took down our wedding photos and packed them into a box in the garage. I did not throw them away. They were still part of my history. But they did not belong on my walls anymore. As I sealed the box, I felt a sense of closure washing over me. Not satisfaction exactly, not happiness, just relief. Diane had built her entire world on lies and betrayal. It was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. I did not destroy her. She destroyed herself. I just made sure there were consequences. 3 months passed. By late summer, the divorce was finalized. The house was mine. The retirement accounts were split fairly based on the years we were married, but I kept the majority. Diane got nothing in terms of alimony. I heard through mutual acquaintances, people who still had loose connections to her, that she had given birth to a boy. The paternity test confirmed what everyone already knew. Marcus was the father. A judge ordered him to pay child support, though he had no relationship with the child. He was too busy trying to survive his own financial obligations to Lauren and their 2 kids. Diane found work doing remote marketing for a small company, making maybe $40,000 a year, a significant step down from her previous position. She was struggling, financially, emotionally, raising a baby alone in that cramped apartment. I heard all this, and I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no sadness, just complete indifference. She was no longer part of my life. I focused on rebuilding. I got a promotion at work leading a new development team. I started going to the gym regularly, hiking the trails around Columbia River Gorge on weekends. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during the marriage. I spent more time with Rachel, who had been my rock through everything. My sister and I grew even closer, bonding over family dinners and long conversations about life. The house felt different now. I repainted the walls, got rid of furniture that reminded me too much of Diane, and brought in new pieces that felt like mine. I was not trying to erase the past. I was just making space for a future that did not include her. Some nights I sat on the balcony, with a beer looking out over the city lights, and I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about trust, and how easily it can be broken. I thought about the red flags I had ignored, because I did not want to face the truth. I learned something important through all of this. Trust is not something you give blindly. It is earned through consistent actions over time. I had trusted Diane completely, and she had taken that trust and shattered it without a second thought. Next time, if there is a next time, I will listen to my instincts. I will pay attention to the small changes, the little inconsistencies. I will not ignore warning signs just because confronting them is uncomfortable. But I also learned about justice versus revenge. I could have tried to destroy Diane out of spite. I could have made things even worse for her than they already were. But that was not what I did. I protected myself. I used the legal system to ensure fairness. I made sure there were consequences for her actions. Yes, but I did not go out of my way to ruin her life. She did that herself. There is a difference between seeking justice and seeking revenge, and I am glad I chose the former. This court does not compel a man to support a child he did not father, particularly when the pregnancy resulted from the petitioner's admitted infidelity. The preliminary rulings came down hard. I would retain full ownership of the house, since I had purchased it prior to marriage, and only added Diane's name as a gesture of trust she had violated. Our joint accounts would be split, but I could file for reimbursement for any funds Diane had misappropriated during the affair. No alimony. She taught me that love without respect is worthless. She showed me that I am stronger than I thought I was. I survived betrayal. I fought for myself. I came out the other side, not bitter, but better. If you are going through something similar right now, I want you to remember this. You cannot control what other people do to you. Someone else's choices, their betrayals, their lies, those are on them, not you. But you can absolutely control how you respond. I could have stayed in that marriage. I could have accepted Diane's demands, paid her alimony, lived in quiet misery while she went off with Marcus and her new baby. A lot of people do that. They stay because leaving feels too hard, too complicated, too painful. But I chose differently. I chose my dignity. I chose to stand up for myself. I chose to demand better. And yeah, it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done. But it was worth it. That smirk Diane gave me that Sunday morning, when she thought she had all the power, it is gone now. Completely gone. But my peace of mind, my self-respect, my ability to sleep at night, knowing I did the right thing, those are here to stay. Sometimes the best response to betrayal is not elaborate revenge. It is simply walking away and building a better life without that person in it. Diane's world collapsed because she constructed it on a foundation of lies. I learned something important through all of this. Trust is not something you give blindly. It is earned through consistent actions over time. I had trusted Diane completely, and she had taken that trust and shattered it without a second thought. Next time, if there is a next time, I will listen to my instincts. I will pay attention to the small changes, the little inconsistencies. I will not ignore warning signs just because confronting them is uncomfortable. On the understanding that I deserve better than what she gave me. I am not waiting for an apology that will never come. I am not hoping she realizes what she lost. I genuinely do not care anymore. I have moved on, and that more than anything else is my victory. So here is my question for everyone watching. Have you ever had to make the tough choice to walk away from someone you loved because they did not respect you? How did you find the strength to do it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your stories help other people going through similar situations. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button, Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. And subscribe to this channel, because I share real stories about real-life challenges and how people overcome them. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was not easy to hear, but I hope it helps someone out there who is struggling with betrayal right now. You are stronger than you think. You deserve respect, and you absolutely have the power to choose yourself. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember the truth always comes out eventually. Always.